Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video, and I know a lot of you have been really eager to get this video. It's going to be an Enhancement Shaman PvP guide. I'm going to be giving you everything that you need to know that I've been able to gather from my experience with the specialization, and I must say, this is the most fun specialization I have played in a long time. I really like all the cool and unique tools. It's a completely unique experience. If you're looking for that, it's going to play like no other specialization in the game, and if you're willing to dedicate yourself to it, it's definitely going to be a worthwhile and fun investment. So far I've been able to get about 2,800 and I'm continuing to push on it. There's not a lot of Enhancement Shaman players. 2,800 is actually top 30, which is like very low rating for top 30 compared to some other specializations, so you're definitely going to be kind of like a unique special butterfly when you play this specialization. When we look at the talents, there are multiple builds for Enhancement Shaman. Right now I've had the most amount of success with this build, which will be linked in the description down below. This is a Stormstrike build. It focuses on just mashing the crap out of Stormstrike and using Ellie Blast to give you buffs and Lightning Bolts when you're not trying to juggle the buff. Getting your Spirit Wolves on cooldown as much as possible is really important with this build, and using Healing Stream Totem on cooldown. This is something that I see a lot of Enhancement Shamans that they don't do. It's so much healing. You want to be min-maxing your Healing Stream Totem as much as possible. My PvP talents that I'm using for solo shuffle are Counterstrike Totem, Grounding Totem, and Static Field Totem. Static Field Totem is a 100% mandatory pick. You need to know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, that's the main reason that you're not having success. I personally really like Lightning Lasso in solo shuffle. It gives me a lot of opportunities to create kill windows for my team. We're definitely going to want to take Totemic Projection, because this is how we're going to be using our Static Field Totem, moving it around the map and moving our enemies. I've personally had the preference of going for Nature's Fury for 4% more critical strike chance. I feel like when you get critical strikes on your Lightning Bolts or on your Ellie Blasts, like you really notice the difference on this, or when your Stormstrike turns over to a proc Ascendance, you really notice it. It's when you get your kill windows. But I think also a decent option would be Totemic Surge to reduce the cooldown of your totems. This gets you more Healing Stream Totems, which is going to be the main totem that you're going to want to be resetting. One thing also is I don't have decurse in this build. You know, going for this, I would obviously drop a point in the crit to get the decurse whenever I felt that it was absolutely necessary, so potentially into Warlocks. I'll be honest, I've never played decurse in any of my lobbies and got to 2,800 just because the keybind bloat. There's a lot of keybinds on this class, but if you did want to play optimally, you would want to be taking this into Warlocks to remove the Curse of Weakness that they might put on you, to remove hexes from opposing shamans. This is kind of the point of this tool, so definitely do take it into consideration. Again, this talent build will be linked down below. These are just the little minor adjustments that I want to talk about before we get into the gameplay, which is basically what we're going to be jumping into in just a moment. For gear, I've went for Haste and Verse. If you're running the Stormstrike build, I think Haste and Verse is better. If you're running the Lava Lash build, you're obviously going to want to go for Mastery instead. So you're going to have to, farm 2 sets of gear if you want to be switching between those different sets. I didn't even make the crafted piece. I was pretty lazy with this character, but the crafted piece for crowd control reduction is definitely going to be a plus for you if you're interested in making it, because you're really susceptible to crowd control. But I've managed to continue to have this success with basically just a full set of Conquest box gear and some enchants from the auction house. So I didn't really go like too far above and beyond. Like we got speed enchants on our bracers and our cloak, a main stat on our chest, just generic build, haste verse, general focused, everything's enchanted, basic setup, and you can just immediately get in and start having some fun with this class if you don't have the gold at the time. But if you do want to min-max, obviously going after the crafted pieces is going to be a plus. So let's jump into the gameplay. We can probably go over a couple of clips in this video. In this one particularly, it's going to be about kind of like crowd control and picking your moment, because that's basically all of what Enhancement Shaman is getting crowd control. Hex Lightning Lasso is a really good combo. You hex the healer, Lightning Lasso your target you're trying to kill, and this will be a really good setup. We're fighting a Fistweaver, which is a really popular specialization. It can be tough to deal with, but at the start of the match, you want to get your Earth Elemental out, your Spirit Wolves, and your Healing Stream Totem down as soon as possible. These are things you want rotated on cooldown as frequently as you can, because you're going to be resetting the cooldown of your Spirit Wolves through your Maelstrom spending. We just Stormstrike the Mistweaver because he runs runs in and we get a stun on him. So attacking Mistweaver when they get really close to you can be good. This scares the Mistweaver away, but I see my ret going after the Warlock. We blind the Mistweaver, so we're going to go after the Warlock a little bit here. We're interrupting Tyrant. We stun the lock while the Monk is cycloned. This forces the Warlock to trinket. Here's the static field totem on the Monk, and I move it over with projection. This is preventing the Monk from fist weaving, really putting him in a tough spot, and this allowed us to get the Warlock wall. So using that static field to bring a fist weaver away or bring an enemy away from attacking is a really effective tool. We've reset our Spirit Wolves. We're going for Hex out of Hammer of Justice. We need to get these Spirit Wolves out as soon as possible. We root the Mistweaver on their trinket to stop them connecting with their fist weaving. We get another stun. Really good to get a lot of crowd control. This forces the Monk to cocoon. We can swap to the Hunter. We get a proc Ascendance. Really important to spam Storm Strike as much as possible to fish for these procs. If you get a proc Ascendance, you're going to feel really good. You want to use Chain Heal, and you want to do your best to keep Flame Shock up to buff that Chain Heal. It's going to be a lot more healing than Healing Surge at this point. So this is another adjustment if you're coming to Enhancement Shaman from a previous expansion. Chain Heal is going to be your biggest heal. We get a big proc here. We can knock the Mistweaver away with Thunderstorm. We just want to make it really annoying for the Mistweaver to get a lot of effective healing out here. We get a stun onto the Hunter while no one has a kick, and a Hex onto the Mistweaver. This is isolated the Warlock, chasing them down. We got a static field totem. We force the shield from the Warlock. We'll swap off the shield, go after the Hunter, utilize Ellie Blast, get Healing Stream down on cooldown. Got to get my Spirit Wolves out. We'll lock the Hunter from running away. We get a Hammer of Justice on the Monk here. I've got Hex coming up. It's DR'd, but the Hunter is so low that we're going to be able to push through and get the win if I get the Hex, even if it's on DR. So there's a lot of navigation here that's going on in each match in particular. Ancestral Guidance and Astral Shift are really good abilities to use at key moments, like when enemy cooldowns are up, like Avenging Wrath or like Demonic Tyrant. These are good moments to activate Ancestral Guidance, at least for sure. And if you're getting attacked, then you can use Astral Shift on top of it. This is going to kind of get your way through it. Didn't really talk about Doom Winds. I usually sit on Doom Winds and wait till the enemies don't have defensives and I know I can get uptime with it. Or if I get a proc Ascendance, it's good to combo it with it because they work so well together with the extra range. Start of the game, Earth Ellie, Spirit Wolves, Healing Stream, get these on cooldown because you want to be using them as much as possible. Start generating Maelstrom, get an Ellie Blast out as soon as possible to get our damage buff, and just kind of watch and see who they're going after. We get Iron Bark onto the Retribution Paladin. I get a proc Ascendance here, so I Doom Winds with it, and we're going to swap to the Hunter with it. Static Field the Hunter, move him closer to the Ret so I can stack up the enemies to get cleaved from my Demo lock. Hex the Druid out of the stun. Really important to see when the enemy healer is crowd controlled. If you can chain a Hex, you want to be grabbing that. We get a Full Fear out of the Hex. Reset my UI because the Hunter's health bar disappeared, but don't chase. Immediately switch to a different target. Enhancement is not built to chase things, so if you've got like something close to nearby to hit that and then pull behind the pillar. This will pull your original target back into you, and then you can hit them again without having to chase them and kind of feed your damage. Red Paladin's pulling me off the pillar though a bit. I see a scatter shot, so I'm going to put Grounding Totem down to try and ground the trap. Anytime you see a stun or a scatter on your healer against a Hunter, they're going to trap out of it, so you do want to try and grounding. You're not always going to get it, but at least you're like staggering and delaying it possibly, or you're going to eat it. Against Hunter, you can also root the pet with Earth Grab Totem. Not so important against Marksman. Healing Stream Totem on cooldown. Here comes another Avenging Wrath. So we get a coil onto the Ret here, get our Spirit Wolves on cooldown before we spend our Maelstrom, get our Elemental Blast buff up again, purge some hots. The Ret's overextending. I can knock the Ret behind the pillar. We can cap the Druid on the other side of the map, and we can kind of go after him. I'm going to trade this Hammer of Justice because my Monk is scattered. Lock the Ret away from me. Use some Maelstrom here when your healer is crowd controlled to heal with that Chain Heal rather than doing damage. And with that Totem, I've locked the Ret away from me, prevented him from killing me, put him really far behind. We can go behind the pillar here, line of sight the Marksmanship Hunter. You don't want to stand in line of Marksmanship Hunter, so staying at the pillar, attacking him when he's nearby. If the Hunter comes in, we can swap to the Hunter as well, but this is going to be allowing me to do the most amount of effective damage. Windshare the heal of the Resto Druid, really good to just basically shear anything as a shaman. Here we get a Lightning Lasso with an incap on the Druid, really good, again, cross crowd control. That's why I like Lightning Lasso. But we got Barkskin. We swapped to the Druid because he got interrupted, and I popped Doom Winds on him. This is kind of YOLO, honestly, and look, he's just cutting away with Sprint. This is the difficulties of kind of just sending a Doom Winds, but we get a proc Ascendance, which is going to really allow us to enable the rest of the Doom Winds and connect onto the Hunter. Forces Roar of Sacrifice on the Hunter. Hunter runs away. I'm not going to chase him. Swap back to the nearest target, which is the Ret. Healing Stream Totem on cooldown. Ellie Blast for the buff. Chase the Ret behind the pillar. Try and shear the Druid on his heal. Refresh Earth Shield as we're running away to min-max our globals. Chain Heal to help the Mistweaver out because he can't really fist weave with the bubble up right now. We got Bubble and Bop. I'm going to line the Hunter. Survive the wings. We got Static Field. We'll lock the Hunter and the Ret. Pull them behind the pillar away from the Druid. This is a really good tool offensively with the Static Field Totem. We can knock the Ret away while our Mistweaver is Hammer of Justice. Try and support him a little bit, stand on top of him. We take a big chunk of damage. We're going to Lightning Lasso and line the Ret for a second. to try and avoid that pressure. Keep pulling the ret behind the pillar and trying to avoid him as much as possible. Root the hunter on the other side, force freedom, try and get a purge on it. We get triple blinded here, so I see that they're swapping to the warlock. I want to refresh Earth Shield as soon as possible on the targets that are getting attacked here. Get our Spirit Wolves out on cooldown, really important to min-max our damage. Ellie Blast to get the buff back up. Keep Flame Shock up, and I'm kind of just letting the warlock carry at this point by not running into the middle of the map. My healer is CC'd. You can see scatter into stun, but I proc an Ascendance, absolutely blast the Ret Paladin out of the park, and we are able to secure the kill with it. So you can see that Enhancement Shaman is a very tactical specialization. If you just run in and zug, you're almost certainly going to die a lot of the time. You need to know when to stack field, pull people away. It's usually if your healer is crowd controlled, enemies have offensive cooldowns up, put enemies away with the field totem, root them, and kite with Spirit Walk, get into Ghost Wolf, use your Maelstrom to heal during that time. Healer isn't crowd controlled. Maelstrom is going into damage, maybe static field to pull enemies closer to you, roots to prevent them from running away. And you're going to be flipping between offense and defense in pretty much all of your games, and that's what you're going to want to be thinking about when you're playing Enhanced Shaman. So Spirit Wolves, Earth Elemental down, Healing Stream down. That's my opener every single time. Ellie Blast for my damage buff, start getting Maelstrom, and use Stormstrike on cooldown. We're going to try and go after the Warlock. We lock him and move him out of range of his portal while the Druid's in an in cap. He gets put into a leg sweep, another Ellie Blast, watching for the Avenging Wrath here. Ret gets scattered. We can knock the Ret away while he's scattered. Warlock ports away. I'm not going to chase the Warlock. I'm going to attack somebody who's closer to my team. Again, don't chase. We let the Warlock come back to us. We get a proc Ascendance, so we're going to send some big Storm Strikes here. You really want to be pressing Storm Strike on cooldown. Honestly, refreshing Flame Strike should maybe take even less priority because you get limited time to keep using them, and it's such a low cooldown, it can feed into itself to proc more. I think I had a game where I almost had 20 seconds of uptime on it. We get stunned here. We Earth Shield ourselves because we're getting focused. The Ret and the Warlock are on me, so we're going to use some Maelstrom to heal. Line of sight at the pillar. Our Mistweaver's in a Hammer of Justice. We'll stun the lock and line the Ret from interrupting us. This is stopping damage, allowing my Mistweaver to recover all of us. Reposition over to the Warlock. He ports away. Not going to chase him. Try and go after the Ret a little bit, who's pushed in behind the pillar. Keep chunking in our Ellie Blasts. We'll buff up our damage here with the Storm Slash into a Storm Strike, into an Ice Strike. Start getting some burst damage. Incap the Freedom. Try and stall the Ret's reconnection here for a little bit. We get a triple leg sweep, so I want to try and Hex here. Druid's pressured after just getting stunned. We get an interrupt out of the way, which is still really good. Even if you don't get a Hex, you do want to try and get them, because if you get interrupted, then you're not going to die. Here, Wings is up. We static field the Ret. We move them away from ourselves. Get away from me. I don't want that Avenging Wrath, and try and get some distance during that time. Keep your Ellie Blast buff up as much as possible. We get a root on the Ret here behind the pillar. We stun him on his freedom. I really like using incaps and stuns against paladins when they use freedom. Try and purge it off with greater purge, because if you can get rid of it and they don't get uptime, you can kite them really effectively. We've got a proc Ascendance here, so we're swapping back to the Warlock, and we don't want to attack into Ironbark. Warlock ports back into the room. We got a scatter. We need to heal here. Our healer is crowd controlled, so Maelstrom goes into healing right now whenever our healer is crowd controlled. Root onto the Ret here. We need to stop that clone. We get an in cap on it, but I'm watching the Druid going fishing for hexes here. It's on DR. Honestly, wasn't really worth casting this hex with it being, I thought it was on half DR. We get blinded. They're going after our Mistweaver monk. I put a Counterstrike down to try and distract people and prevent them from chasing after my Mistweaver. I see a clone, shock the clone. Against this type of composition, I think interrupting clone or interrupting fear are going to be really important. We get Divine Shield with the double leg sweep. Swap to the rest of the Druid a little bit, but our Mistweaver's in trouble, so we're going to heal him up because he's stunned. So anytime healer's crowd controlled, Maelstrom is going into healing. We're using stun here defensively onto the Ret. We're locking the Ret away from the Mistweaver, trying to move him around, trying to buy time for our Mistweaver to recover. So always paying attention and rotating and flipping depending on what we need to do. We can root all the pets behind the pillar here, stop them from stunning us, keep chasing down the Ret, and be able to close out the match. So you can see it's really like, you got to be thinking a lot while you're playing Enhanced Shaman. You're looking at the whole battlefield. You're trying to stop a lot of things. Super engaging specialization. It's very demanding. So if you're not ready for this, then definitely maybe take a step back, play something a little easier like a BM Hunter or something. But if you're ready for this type of gameplay, it's really fast and really rewarding when you're able to execute on everything. It is super satisfying. But that's basically it for me here on this Enhanced Shaman guide. I hope that you've enjoyed the commentary. If you did, please hit the video with a thumbs up. Comments down below with your thoughts. Does this intrigue you to pick up an Enhancement Shaman? Let me know, and I will see you in the next video.